Before we delve into our Bible section today, in Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 through 30, we need to pay heed to the chapter that came before, Matthew 24. Jesus and his followers leave the walled city of Jerusalem after being questioned by the religious leaders on the Temple Mount. As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. "Tell us," they said, "when will this happen, the destruction of the temple? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" Jesus answered, "Watch out that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumor of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nations will rise up against nation, but the end is still ahead. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains." In verse 42, Jesus warns, "Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. Who then is the faithful and wise servant, whom the master has put in charge of the servants in his household to give them their food at the proper time? It will be good for them whose master finds him doing so when he returns. Truly I tell you, he will put him in charge of all his possessions." So let's hear our parable of the talents, the one today. "Again, it will be like a man going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 bag went, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. 'Master,' he said, 'you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more.' His master replied, 'Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of my many things. Come and share your master's happiness.' Now the man with the 2 bags of gold also came. 'Master,' he said, 'you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained 2 more.' To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. And he said to the man with the 2 bags, 'I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness.' Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. 'Master,' he said, 'I knew you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid, and I went out and I hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you.' His master replied, 'You wicked and lazy servant, so you knew that I harvest where I have not sown, and gather where I have not scattered seed? Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever he has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they will have will be taken from them. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. What will the end times be like? Jesus illustrates for the disciples the character of the end times with the parables of the 10 bridesmaids that we studied last Sunday. 5 were ready yet unwilling to share their oil with the other 5 bridesmaids that had run out of oil. The end result of that story was that the 5 bridesmaids who had gone looking for more oil as the bridegroom arrived were shut out of the celebration. Today, the talents which we discussed precedes also the parable of the sheep and the goats, which ends Jesus' final discourse in Matthew. Following these words of wisdom, be watchful, be prepared, use your talents to the fullness for God's kingdom, is words of warning. Persecution is coming for God's people at the hands of Rome, and God's judgment is coming on those who are wicked and reject God. The narrative moves right away to the end of the events of Jesus' last day. Jesus wanted to convey to the disciples the urgency and solemnness with which they must face the coming kingdom. Before the parable of the talents, Jesus had said, "The Father is the only one who knows the timing of the arrival of the kingdom of heaven. Because it will be unexpected, his disciples must be ready. Comfort is knowing God is ultimately the one in charge." So this parable begins with the same theme as the 2 previous stories, the absence of an authority figure. The master sets out on his journey, yet before he leaves, the parable tells how he hands over his possessions to his servants. They are entrusted with extremely large sums of money, according to their abilities, and when the master departs, immediately the first 2 servants work with their talents and double their money. But just as quickly, the last servant buries his piece of silver in the ground. The servants made their decisions right away about what to do with what they had been entrusted. 2 gladly with great enthusiasm, and the one reluctantly. When the first 2 servants tell the Lord about their diligence and good fortune, they are praised and invited to share in the joy of their master. But the 3rd servant has more to say because he has more explaining to do. It seems his fear motivated him not to do good. Instead of working extra hard to please his master, who he thought was harsh and demanding, he does nothing with his talent. Because of this odd reaction, the hearers are left to wonder if he really was afraid, or was he just trying to come up with a good story at the time of reckoning? It seems he has no interest in working hard to please the master. He's joyless and accepts the opportunity as an unwanted burden. The master calls the servant evil and lazy. He is evil to believe something that is not true about the harshness of the master, and lazy in that he did nothing with that which he was entrusted. The master had great hopes for him. Not only should they be diligent with what they have been given, knowing that the time is short, that they should also seek to understand the character of the master they serve. Jesus is the light of the world. And when you turn your back on that light, you embrace the darkness. If one chooses to not work for the kingdom of God on earth, that is selfishness and lacks the understanding of loving your neighbor as yourself. God is love, but is just also. Without justice, there is no hope. Faithful servants will enter into the joy of the Lord and be rewarded with an invitation to God's kingdom celebration. I will end this with a thought from the Christian podcast, Pulpit Fiction. Following Christ, doing kingdom work, is risky. It means taking some chances. It means not hoarding the resources we cling to. All of our resources are a gift. All should be used for the Master's kingdom.